Ed Blakely has served in different capacities under a succession of presidential administrations, has guided government policy on urban planning, and is a widely cited academic. My name is Sean Britton, and each week Ed and I have a chat about what's the latest news out of the United States, talking everything politics, planning and policy from sea to shining sea. Find us on iTunes, Whooshka, Facebook and Twitter at US of Ed. It's a bit of a loaded question this week, but after the week we've seen, I think it should be asked, is Trump losing the plot?
Well, he's not on the plot. He has a personal capacity to say whatever he wants, not representing the presidency, but representing himself. This is the first time I've seen that. When you're on the radio, you have to represent the station. Certainly you have ideas of your own, but they can't clash with those of the station. He is now clashing with those ideas, those principles of the United States that everyone holds dear. I think he has now cut the cord with his own constituency because he's put himself in front of his constituency. Not before he needed their support for his good ideas. But when you go after soldiers who've been killed in action in Niger, why were they there? Remember Benghazi? This is the same kind of thing, but he's taking no responsibility as President of the United States for the action in Niger. He's taking no responsibility for the death of these young men. It took him longer to respond than it's taken any president. And then to say Obama failed to respond was over the top. Every Obama aide came to his defense. Every person who was an aide of Bush came to Obama's defense and Bush's defense. The man has no capacity to say what is.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Niger. As you mentioned there, Trump called the families of these four soldiers. He's been criticised for the content of those calls as well. But at the moment, that's a little bit sort of he said, she said in terms of the actual content, bizarre as that might be. But what is unquestionable is that Trump used this as something of a cudgel with which to attack Obama, claiming other presidents, as you mentioned there, never made calls like this, never made calls to the families of soldiers who had been killed in U.S. military action. Obama aides were climbing the walls in frustration. There were defenses made about Obama and U.S. President George W. Bush. What's your take on this? I mean, he's had controversies with Gold Star families before in the lead up to the election. But how can somebody like the U.S. President, in a country that basically worships its U.S. military peoples, get away with this over and over again?
He can't. The simple answer is that he can't. You cross a line at some point. And this is not him. It's the presidency we're talking about. You go all the way back to Abraham Lincoln, where 1 million men were lost. Lincoln took time wherever he could to visit them in the hospitals, to write notes to them and their families. This goes back a long way. So this is a person who's crossed the line. He is no longer president of the United States. He's president of Trump. And it's increasingly clear. He does not have any relationship with the Senate or the leader of the Senate, Mitch McConnell. He stabbed McConnell in the back, and an hour later he was on the steps of the White House saying how they were working together. McConnell looked ashen. He stabbed his attorney general in the back. He has had to let go of his health secretary. The man has nobody. And McCain has called him basically a person who's pushing a phony agenda for himself and for no one else. Now, John McCain won the Medal of Freedom. That's the highest honor in the United States. And he took the time, without naming Trump, to say the nation's facing a very tragic time where the person who's supposed to lead it can't or won't. and more recently, President Bush, who has never said a peep, even during the entire Obama era, about anyone, without naming him, has said basically the same thing. So we have a person who's in the White House, but we don't have a president.
It is interesting you make that comment about George W. Bush. This has really only come out this morning, this rebuke of Trump that he's made in a recent speech. And it is very unusual because throughout the 8 years of Obama, there was really not a peep from George W. Bush. And it is kind of an unwritten code for former presidents that they don't really speak on their successes. They essentially just try and do what's best for the country. And what's best for the country is usually lay low, stay quiet, let the current administration get on with the job. So is it just the fact that Trump is such an extraordinary outlier in the political system that has forced Bush's hand here?
No, it's the presidency. The reason Nixon left was the trial was one thing, but he had sullied the office of the president. And that office is more important than the person in it. And Bush doesn't get, Bush gets this, but Trump doesn't. Trump is more concerned with how his hotels are doing than he is about how the United States is doing. I worry that he may use his office to blackmail America in a war with North Korea. That is just how far he has gone. Every attempt to uncover things about the Russian probe leads him to discrediting the people, not what they said, but the person himself or herself. So he's now trying to discredit Mueller. He's trying to discredit the members of the Senate Intelligence Committee. He's trying to discredit his own Attorney General. He has not said anything that the Steele memos say about him is untrue. He's discredited the person who did it and the institutions from which they come. He's even discredited the FBI for having read the Steele memos. Now, a good reason for discrediting the FBI is if they hadn't read them, because they're in an ongoing investigation. So, yes, your first question, has he lost the plot? Yes, he has lost the plot entirely. He's only there trying to save his own skin. He is not leading the nation.
Look, moving away from personality to politics, I think I'd like to get back to that Russia probe question in a moment, but just looking a little bit at policy for a moment, Republicans were something of a dud on healthcare. They were failures in their attempts to repeal and replace Obamacare. They've moved on to tax cuts right now. Business as usual, or are we going to see more problems in spite of the fact the party controls the Senate and the House?
Well, I don't know all the outcome of this, but this would be the largest tax cut in the history of the United States. Is the economy in any trouble? Not that I know of. Has anyone in business asked for a tax cut? Not that I know of. Has leaders of business like Warren Buffett saying this will stimulate the economy? Not that I know of. Has any economist said that this is an ideal thing to do? Not that I know of. So I think what's going to happen here is for the very first time, intellectuals are going to enter this debate. Even from the far right foundations who've all said what they really want is a balanced budget. They want the United States to reduce its debt, not to increase its debt. So the Heritage Foundation would have a hard time supporting this. All the right-wing think tanks have said a modest tax change that would help the middle class would increase spending and would be good for the nation. No one has called for a tax cut at the top. So I think when this gets into the Senate and they hold hearings, it could be a real Donnybrook. And if he loses this one, 1, 2, 3, in American baseball, you're out.
And I just wanted to address this one as well, because we have been addressing this in an ongoing sense. Puerto Rico, what's the latest?
Well, Puerto Rico's still a shambles. The president's taking credit for doing such a great job, but no one in Puerto Rico is giving him any credit. The representative from Puerto Rico basically said his team, led by Mr. Carson, the Secretary of HUD, don't know what they're doing. Carson was an absolute ridiculous figure in front of the congressional hearings. Didn't know his job, didn't really know what was going on. He's sending a Puerto Rican to Puerto Rico. This is a black man saying, well, we're going to have a black man show up in front of the store, so that means the store's okay. Uncle Tom. This is the most ridiculous thing. The man's totally incompetent, but the Puerto Rican situation is one that's really dire. We really need people with outstanding expertise to go to Puerto Rico. This means ships, military personnel. It means an entire, almost an invasion of Puerto Rico to put it back on its feet, as they did in 1879 or whatever it was, and then again in 1917. It's going to take that. It's going to take a military operation of enormous size and scale, much bigger than the operation we had in Katrina.
Now, finally, circling back to Russia, Robert Mueller has been told, as you mentioned there, he's been told he'd better act soon. Why the hurry up? Will the White House try to interfere, or are we looking at something even bigger than that on the cards?
No. The reason Mueller's been asked to hasten is that all investigations start losing steam and public credibility. And the far right wing is now mounting a campaign against Mueller himself, calling him a left-wing stooge, etc. The more that comes out, the more crippling it is for Mueller's probe. So what Rosenstein is saying, stop going after Trump and go after the Russian issue, get some stuff on that, take that down, issue your indictments, and get back on your feet. If later on we want to go after the president, let's do it. But right now, lay off the president and go after the essential thing, and that is, what did the Russians do? How did they do it? Why did they do it? Were there any people aiding and abetting them? And I think he has a good long list of people he can indict on that. The president may not be one of them.
Ed and I'll be back next week to talk the latest on American news and politics. Subscribe on iTunes and Whooshka to stay up to date, and show us some love on Facebook and Twitter at US of Ed.